Welcome back. Today I'm doing another 2024 first round mock draft. This is going to be how I would draft the first round of those. I've done a couple predictive ones, but right now we're doing how I would draft, where I would go if I was the teams. So let's just go ahead and get right up on the board. It's Caleb Williams, number one. I've talked about it a couple times. I don't think we need to keep harping on it. I think it's pretty much set in stone. It's going to be Caleb Williams. I think he's a generational kind of dude. I think he's like up there in that Trevor Lawrence territory of like, dude, you just can't miss on. So we're going Caleb Williams one. Now, pick number two, it's really the whole Drake May, Jaden Daniels argument. You got Drake May, you got the tools, you got the size, you got a little bit of inaccuracy, a little wonky throwing motion. Then Jane Daniels, you got the size concerns, but he's an electric athlete. He throws a beautiful deep ball, but then you got concerns of he didn't really throw over the middle. Now it could be like a Justin Jefferson, slot versus outside thing where like he just didn't throw over the middle, but he can. That's to be determined in the NFL. But with that all being said, for me, it's clearly Drake May. I'm not as high on Jane Daniels as other people. I'm really worried about like his running style and like his size. Just I don't think are gonna mesh well. And you gotta think about like I'm not gonna spend too much time on this, but like NFL teams, we want it like when we're making mock draft, we think in a vacuum, like, okay, this player's better than this player, this. But when you're an NFL team, you're an owner and a GM, you're not just thinking, okay, who's the better player? You're thinking, if I give this Jane Daniels dude millions and millions of dollars, if he plays well and goes on to his second contract, I'm giving this dude $50 million. I need him to stay healthy. It's not just I hope he stays healthy. Like, I'll pay this dude millions of dollars. He better stay healthy. So that's part of like the things that like teams think about with injuries that like some teams are like, oh, just take the risk on the injury. It's like, well, you're not the person paying this dude millions of dollars to be healthy. So that's another thing you got to kind of think of with Jaden Daniels that I'm a little more worried about than maybe others. But anyways, Drake May is a clear number two for me. And then I just kind of made the argument why I'm not as huge on Jaden Daniels. I've argued the Patriots things multiple times. I think the Patriots need to just get talent on this team, and I just don't think they're set up for any quarterback to succeed. And I'm not a huge. If it was Drake May, I would do it for the Patriots here, but I'm just not as high on Jaden Daniels or JJ McCarthy. So we're gonna take the best player in the draft, Marvin Harrison. I think Marvin Harrison sitting out is making people forget about how good he is. Like, the fact that he hasn't done the combine or the pro day is just kind of hurts his recency bias because, people are like, oh, but Malik Neighbors running a 4.3. Roma Dunze had a great pro day. Like, all these things where it's like Marvin Harrison, we're just overthinking it. He's just the best receiver, I think, by a gap in this draft class. And I like Malik Neighbors. I like Rome. But it's Marvin Harrison I don't think is very close. So Marvin Harrison is the pick there for 3. Just take the best player available. Now, number 4, the Arizona Cardinals. Could be a trade back spot, but this is my mock draft, and I think the Cardinals got rid of Marquise Brown. They need a receiver really bad. They were really hoping Marvin Harrison was there. Marvin Harrison goes, but with that being said, I'm still just going to take Malik Neighbors there. I think he brings this electric. He can play the slot if he needs there, but like he just brings this dynamism to the offense with his speed, acceleration, and movement skills that I think Kyler Murray could really use there in Arizona. He could be a nice pairing with Michael Wilson there, and I think the Cardinals are getting on the right track. They still got a lot of pieces to go, but Malik Neighbors is this extreme upside receiver who he might just be a slot guy, but worst case scenario, slot guys are really good, and a slot guy with his explosiveness is still worth that kind of pick. Not above Marvin, but still worth that pick, so we're going to go there. And then here at pick 5, I'm going to go ahead and make the trade here. I think the Chargers are a perfect team to trade out. And as much as I'm not huge on Jaden Daniels, I think this, more than how I feel about Jaden Daniels, this is more how I feel about the Minnesota Vikings. And we're going to trade 11 and 23 from the Vikings to go up to pick 5 and go up. And Jaden Daniels is one of those players where like, the whole thing is like, oh, but he played with, a left tackle who might be like a top 3 pick in next year's NFL draft. Played with Malik Neighbors, who just went 4. Brian Thomas, who's going to go in the first round of this draft. He played with all this, and it's like, okay, yeah, but now he's going to go in the NFL, play with Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson. So it's like, it's an offense that makes sense for a rookie quarterback, which is like, when I talk about the Patriots, I'm like, I like Jaden Daniels, but like, there's just no way Jaden Daniels succeeds with Pop Douglas and Kendrick Bourne as his top 2 receivers, whereas you throw him into Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, he has a better chance to succeed. So we're going to trade up for the Vikings. I think they kind of need to get a quarterback, and we're going to go up and get Jaden Daniels for them. I think Kevin O'Connell is a great coach there, and I think he can help Jaden Daniels. So we're going there. Pick number 6, the New York Giants. I think the Giants have to get a receiver. If you really want to see one last year of Daniel Jones, then you got to give him something to work with. So we're going to go with Rome Odunze, who I think is just like a high floor receiver. Like I think Rome Odunze has a higher floor than Malik Neighbors, but I think his ceiling is kind of capped. He doesn't have that ceiling that like a Neighbors and Marvin Harrison have. But like Rome Odunze is just such a solid prospect that I'd be shocked if Rome Odunze doesn't make a Pro Bowl in his career. Like I don't know if he'll be like an all-pro receiver, but I'd be shocked if he doesn't make a Pro Bowl in his career because he just has that high floor of just a really all-around solid receiver. He's got great size. He's got great tracking. He's got great contested catches. He's a solid route runner. I just think he's got the whole package. So we're going to go with him at 6. Now, number 7, the Tennessee Titans. I think this is like the easiest pick to draft. Joe Alt, best tackle in the class. Take him out. I was holding on to Olu for a little, but Joe Alt's the number 1 tackle. We're going to go him. Next up, the Atlanta Falcons at pick 8. For me, I think this is where you just go best defensive player available. And for me, my best defensive player is Johnny Newton. I was a little lower on Johnny Newton, just kind of like hearing all this stuff. And then I went back and watched Johnny Newton's tape. And, man, Johnny Newton is, bro, he's got the movement. He's got the power. He's got the quickness. Like, this dude's the whole package. And I think he's one of the most slept on dudes in this draft. And he's like a top, 20 dude on a lot of people. But, like, I think he could easily be a top 10 pick. And I think, like I said, I think he could be the number 1 defensive player taken in the draft. He has that kind of upside and ability. So he's the number 1 player taken, slides in on that Atlanta defense and brings kind of like, remember what Grady Jarrett, I'm not comparing him to Grady Jarrett, but the impact Grady Jarrett had when he was a little younger on that defense, he can bring that now in the Atlanta defense. Next up, we got the Chicago Bears up at pick 9. For me, Chicago Bears, you could trade down, but like for me, I'm like, I don't know who, like, okay, a team could jump up here for a tackle. And I think if a team does, you know what? Let's go ahead and get crazy. We're going to have some fun with this. I'm going to have, if there's a team that you can bank is willing to trade up, it is the New Orleans Saints. We're going to have the Saints trading up from 14 to 9. It's hard to, I'd say it's like a 3rd round pick, but they don't have a 3rd round pick. So we're going to go with a future 2 to go up and trade up to 9 with the Bears. The Saints are going to get up. The Saints, Mickey Loomis in New Orleans, always goes up to get his dudes. You saw Chris Olave. He traded a future first, which ended up being the 10th overall pick in last year's draft. He traded that up to go get Trevor Penning, traded up to go get Marcus Davenport. If anyone willing to trade up, it is the Saints. They need a tackle very bad, so they're going to trade up here and get the number 2 tackle in the class. And for me, with the number 2 tackle in the class, they're jumping the Jets because I think the Jets need a tackle. They're going to jump up and they're going to get my number 2 tackle in the class, which is Olu Fashanu. Olu has a little bit of struggles in the run game, but I think those are things we can work on. Like as a pass protector, unless your name is JT Tuimoloau, he is an insane pass protector. He does not let anyone get past him, and I think that's what the Saints need. Go get your franchise left tackle. Go up and get him. Now we have the Jets on the board, and the Jets, I think, like I said, are going to get a tackle. The reason the Saints traded up is because they needed to jump the Jets. The Jets, I think, can still take a tackle in there. I'm still going to have them, and it's between Talisi Fuaga and Troy Fautanu. I think it's Fautanu. Whatever. Troy Fautanu. We're just going to go with that for now. Troy Fautanu and Talisi Fuaga, and I think it's actually Fuanga, too. There's an N. So these names, I'm sorry, but Fuanga and Fautanu, those are the 2 I'm between. And for me, I'm going to lean for the Jets specifically. I think Fuanga might be a little bit better prospect. I'm going to lean Fautanu here because they have a lot of moving pieces on their line. You know, they got Tyron Smith. I don't know how healthy he's going to be. They got Vera Tucker. I don't know exactly where he's going to play yet. Center's kind of locked down, but Fautanu is one of those dudes where he can slide in like left guard or right guard, depending on where Elijah Vera Tucker, if he plays tackle or guard. He can slide in guard day 1 and start for them. I think he would be good guard. And then if or when Tyron Smith gets hurt, he can kick out to tackle. And then hopefully the future plan is Tyron Smith's on a 1-year deal. Smith leaves. Fautanu takes over that left tackle spot in a year or 2. Or like I said, if Tyron Smith gets hurt, which he has been a lot lately. So I think that position versatility is what leans me him over Fuanga. So I'm going to pick him there for the Jets. Now we got the Chargers back up. This is a great move by the Chargers. You trade down, get an extra first-round pick, and they get Talisi Fuanga, Jim Harbaugh. They've already come out, said they want to run the ball. Fuanga's a nasty tackle. He's going to go in there, help that run game. Seems like he'd be a perfect fit for what they want to do there. He can slide in and be their right tackle with Slater at left tackle, and I think that's just a perfect fit. Next up, pick 12, the Broncos, you're spared. This is my mock draft, So I'm not going to take Bo Nix again like I have in every single mock draft I do. And for that, we're probably going to take the best defensive player available. And when we're talking about the best defensive player available, for me, it's between Jared Verse or Leatu Latu. I kind of have them like, depending on what you want, as like 1A, 1B for my edge rushers. Or you go with Quinyon Mitchell, who I think is the best corner in this class. And for me, with how they're set up, I really think that they could use the pass rush more. And this is tough. This is a tough one for me. I'm going to go with the pass rush. Now I'm going to take Jared Verse, who I think might be my edge one. Like I said, him and Leatu Latu are kind of 1A, 1B, but Jared Verse, a great player. Maybe the best pass rusher in the class. Go ahead and take him. Next up, we got the Raiders. Pick 13 on the clock. I'm not going to go quarterback. I'm not really a fan of any other quarterback in this class really in the first round. Maybe late first, early second, we can start talking more quarterbacks. But in this case, I don't think it's worth going quarterback at this point. The Raiders, I'm going to go ahead and take who I was debating between for the Broncos, Quinyon Mitchell, who's my number one corner in this class. I mean, he's got like the athleticism. He can play press. He's really good off. We've seen at Toledo, but he also showed he can play press at the Senior Bowl. He's my number one corner, and I think he's got everything. And I think he'd fit well in Vegas with Antonio Pierce. He's kind of got that nasty personality. You saw him and Lad McConkey, or him and Roman Wilson were going back and forth at the Senior Bowl. That kind of attitude, I think Antonio Pierce is going to like. Comes in, should be a great player for them at corner. Now we got the Bears, who traded down, and I think this ends up being a great scenario for the Bears because they trade down. And I'm going to go ahead and grab them. Leatu Latu, pair across from Montez Sweat. And I mean, Montez Sweat and Leatu Latu is an insane pass rush duo. I can see them liking Dallas Turner. I know some people like Dallas Turner. I'm a little lower on him than normal. And like I said, there's my mock draft. So we're going Leatu Latu. I personally see above. I mean, just a pass rush technician. He doesn't have quite the athleticism. I'm not worried about the medicals too much. He had to medically retire. But then he got cleared by UCLA, played 2 years. From all we've heard, he got cleared at the combine. There were no red flags. So I mean, I think we're willing to go do that. Let's go ahead and take Leatu Latu there. Next up, the Colts. Easiest pick in the draft for me. Grab arguably like the best player in the draft at their position, Brock Bowers. Help out Anthony Richardson. He can almost be like a receiver for them. You know, you don't think of Brock Bowers as like, oh, I'm taking a tight end. Like I'm taking a receiving threat that's also an incredible blocker in Brock Bowers at 15. So I think that's a good pick. Now pick 16, we have the Seattle Seahawks on the clock. I'm going to go ahead and get them some edge help too. I like some of the edge rush that I like. I like Chandler Nwosu. They drafted what's the Derek Hall last year. I like some of the talent. But for me, I'm going to go ahead and grab Dallas Turner. I think I just don't think you can ever grab enough edge rushers, especially when you can rotate dudes, keep them fresh. These dudes are electric. Dallas Turner, like I said, I'm a lower on him than the consensus probably, but I still see the athletic upside, and I think they can work with Dallas Turner there and turn him into an elite pass rusher. So that's what you're hoping for the Seahawks at pick 16. Now pick 17, the Jacksonville Jaguars are on the clock. And I like going interior O-line for them, but like there's just not like a dude like Amarius Mims and JC Latham. I see more as just tackles. I don't really see either one of them translate into guards next year. Looking at Graham Barton or Jackson Powers Johnson, but like I just don't know if that's necessarily where I would go with them. I'm going to go with Cooper DeJean, who I think he's so versatile. I think he can be an elite outside corner. I think he can play slot if you need. I think he can play safety if you need. But like I don't like, some people see DeJean as just like a safety slot corner. I think he can play outside corner. He has his pro day, should be coming up. I think it's this week or next week. He has his pro day. He finally got cleared from his injury. I think he's going to destroy his pro day. And I think everyone's going to be talking about him after his pro day because he is electric. I talked about him in some of my pre-combine videos about like his high school track background. Like this dude is an elite athlete. He's going to show it at his pro day, and I think he's going to rise on a lot of boards after his pro day. And now the Cincinnati Bengals up at pick 18. I mean, this one's hard because I've gone Byron Murphy a lot, but I also think when you have a dude like J.C. Latham or Amarius Mims on the board at tackle, you need to look at that. So it's really the debate of Byron Murphy, J.C. Latham, Amarius Mims. I'm going to go J.C. Latham just because I think they just need to solidify this O-line and give Joe Burrow as much as they possibly can. He can't keep getting hurt. You need to protect Joe Burrow, so we're going to go J.C. Latham there. Next up, this is where I have another trade. This is a fun trade. Kind of had this one planned out. And for me, I'm going to have the Buffalo Bills jumping up, throwing a future second rounder. I think you could get away with like a early third round pick, but I don't think they have it. So they're going to trade an early second, which, I mean, if you're the Rams, you're getting an extra asset. This second could be pretty good next year. Like, we don't know what the Bills are going to look like without, they got rid of so many players. We don't know what they're going to look like. So, this second rounder could be pretty good. It could be better than pick 60 in this year's draft. So they're going to trade up, and the Bills just trade away Stephon Diggs. They need to get a receiver. And if you want a receiver, I think you got to jump the Pittsburgh Steelers. So they're going to do that and grab Brian Thomas. I just think you can't let Josh Allen be in his prime with Khalil Shakir and Curtis Samuel as your top two receivers. You can't be wasting his prime with this. So I think you need to go get a receiver. I'm going to be doing a Buffalo Bills 7-round mock draft this week where I'm going to show a different angle of if they don't trade up, how they can kind of build around. So make sure you subscribe and check that out later in the week if you want to see my Bills 7-round mock draft where they're not going to be trading up another way. But in this mock draft, I'm having to go up, get Brian Thomas. I mean, Brian Thomas is like height, weight, speed. Like, he's a dream if you're a height, weight, speed dude. This dude is fast, electric. Go up and get your receiver to help out Josh. And kind of like a Gabe. He's kind of like similar to Gabe Davis. Not like I'm not comparing them. He's definitely like faster and more electric than Gabe Davis. But that kind of deep threat. You saw the amount of times Josh Allen connected with Gabe Davis deep. I mean, him and Brian Thomas are going to have a field day against defenses if they try and play one high. So I think that's just a fun pick. Next up, the Steelers. Usually I have them going Brian Thomas because I've always said they need a receiver. But he's not there. So for me, I kind of want to go cornerback for them. And I like Joey Porter, but I think Joey Porter is more of like a corner too. You can play kind of like field boundary, whereas you want Joey Porter, the boundary, get aggressive, play him. You want a field corner who can spread the space. And I'm going to go with Terrion Arnold here, who I think is just an elite athlete. Hasn't played corner very long, so he's kind of more of a raw prospect, but a good athlete. Get him to pair across from Joey Porter. Next up, the Miami Dolphins are on the board. For me, I think they need to attack. I was going to say they need to attack O-line, and I was looking at Amarius Mims because I think, we've had a lot of injuries at Toronto Armstead. I think they need to solidify this line. They lost Robert Hunt in the interior, which, I mean, Amarius Mims wouldn't fix that. But then they also lost Christian Wilkins, and you could really use a dude like Byron Murphy right now. So it's really between Byron Murphy and Amarius Mims for me. And what it's going to come down to me is I think Mike McDaniel with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle can make stuff work on offense, whereas defense, they don't have that kind of backbone to help. So I'm going to go with Byron Murphy. He's kind of like your Christian Wilkins replacement there. Next up, pick 22, the Philadelphia Eagles. For me, this pick is between the two corners, Kool-Aid and Nate Wiggins, depending on kind of what you want. Nate Wiggins, a little bit lighter dude, but he can fly. He likes to get up and press. And Kool-Aid McKinstry kind of like the opposite. Nate Wiggins is small and super athletic. Kool-Aid McKinstry is just sound, fundamental dude. Not as athletic, but he's still really good. It's really a hard one for me, but I'm going to lean Kool-Aid for me. I just think he's a little bit of a safer prospect than Nate Wiggins. And I'm a little higher on Kool-Aid McKinstry than others. I said in one of my other videos, I think like him falling could be a mistake. So I think he's going to be really good. So I'm going to go Kool-Aid there. Next up, we have the Chargers, who traded back from 5, got the 2 first-round picks. So this is their second pick. With their first pick, they got Talisi Fuanga. Now, they're a team that really could use just everything. They have a lot of holes. And for me, when you're in this situation, I think you got to lean towards either BPA or if you have a glaring position need. They have a glaring position need at receiver. And so for me, I'm going to go ahead and grab Adonai Mitchell from Texas. I think he can pair across from Quentin Johnson. You got Josh Palmer still there. I think Adonai Mitchell, there's some weird statistics on him. He didn't run super hard. He kind of gave up on plays sometimes. But like this dude's height, weight, speed, incredible. He's a really nuanced route runner. He knows how to like get open and play leverage on defenses. And one of my favorite things about A.D. Mitchell, if you watch the Texas-Washington game, Texas is on the goal line. A.D. Mitchell runs like a fade route. Quinn Ewers doesn't throw it. I can't remember if he hands it off or throws it away. It's an incomplete pass. A.D. Mitchell screaming like, throw me the ball. Next play, line it back up, same fade route. He mosses a dude for a touchdown. And that's the kind of attitude I like in a receiver. You got to have a little diva in you to be a good receiver in the NFL. So Adonai Mitchell. I remember he said he didn't want to be called AD anymore. He's Adonai Mitchell. So we're going to go him there. Next up, the Dallas Cowboys. This is like a pick for me where it's either Amarius Mims or Jackson Powers Johnson, depending on what you like. If I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking Tyler Smith moves to tackle. Terrence Steele isn't the greatest right tackle, but he's not like a glaring weakness. So I'm going to go Jackson Powers Johnson, who can slide in, be the starting center day one. They lost Biotish in free agency, so he can slide in and be their center. Next up, 25, the Green Bay Packers. I'm going to take a guy who I take in a lot of them. I think Graham Barton is the Packer. Packers love these O-linemen that can kind of slide positions on the offense. They can, play tackle. They can play guard. Graham Barton's exactly that. Graham Barton, probably a lot of people slot him more as a guard, but I think he could play tackle. He just seems like a Packers player, so we're going to go with him there. You might be thinking, Amarius Mims is sliding a little, but Amarius Mims might have a lot of injury concerns. I mean, he didn't play a lot at Georgia, injuries. He kind of tweaked his injury at the combine too. Like, those injury concerns are going to stack up, so that's why he's falling a little. Don't get mad at me. 26, the Buccaneers. We're going to take Nate Wiggins. They trade away Carlton Davis. Nate Wiggins is just the best player on the board. I think they could go a couple positions. They could use edge. They could use O-line. They could use corner. Nate Wiggins is the best player on the board, so we're going to go with him there. Now we have the Arizona Cardinals, who went ahead and got themselves Malik Neighbors at pick 4. They're back up on the clock. Another team, they could go O-line. They could go D-line. They could go corner. They have kind of a lot of holes. So it's either between Amarius Mims. If they want to, they could probably... they could play Amarius Mims at left and keep Paris Johnson at right, or they could slide Paris to right, slide Paris Johnson to left, play Amarius Mims at right. So that's one option. Or another option is I think they could attack the defense and get some edge help because they could really use some. And I'm really high on a dude with the name of Chop Robinson, so we're going to get Chop Robinson for them there. I think he's an electric athlete. We know that. His get off in his first step is just electric. Watch this dude at Penn State. His get off is electric. And he is just a dude that I think he's a little bit raw, but you build this dude up, and I think he's an elite pass rusher. I think I'd be surprised if he doesn't go in the first because that upside is crazy. He's I don't know why people are so high on Dallas Turner and not as high on Chop because for me they're not similar players in the play style, but similar players in terms of their raw electric athletes, and I don't think Chop Robinson's much behind Dallas. So Dallas Turner is a better athlete, but Chop Robinson is not far behind at all in that kind of case. So I think he's closer to Dallas Turner than a lot of people really give him credit for. So we're gonna go there. Now we up with the Rams, who traded down with the Buffalo Bills, and this is where I'm gonna stop the Amarius Mims slide. You need to get O-line help. Go in and get Amarius Mims. I talked about him. He's a great player, but just injury history is probably gonna make him fall a little. So he still goes at pick 28. Now 29, the Detroit Lions, team that could use O-line, D-line, secondary, because they brought in Carlton Davis, but he's a 1-year rental, so I think they could still attack corner if they find a dude they really like. But for me, this is a little bit of an interesting pick, and I don't know if everyone's going to agree with me, but I think they could still use some receiver help. I'm DPJ, okay. Josh Reynolds, okay. Amon-Ra's great, but you want another guy who can win, get open, and help out your quarterback. Jameson Williams is the same thing. He's a solid role player, but I think they need another dude who can really win and get open. I'm going to go Ladd McConkey. I think just watching him on that offense, Jameson Williams is your deep guy. Amon-Ra can play in the slot, and Ladd McConkey can be your other outside receiver who can just win against any kind of coverage. It's interesting, I can't remember, I think was it Mike Renner or someone compared him to Antonio Brown. It's just a high comparison. Kind of crazy, but when you watch him, it's just the way he wins is kind of, I don't think he's I wouldn't compare him to Antonio Brown, but the way he runs his routes and wins is comparable to Antonio Brown. Just the way he can just speed up and slow down so quickly and play the leverages and speed and just confuse DB so they never know what he's doing, I think is electric. Get him in that offense, and he's going to help out a lot. Next up, we have the Baltimore Ravens, who I think they could use some D-line help. Jadeveon Clowney, I'm pretty sure, led their team last year. Jadeveon Clowney led their team in sacks last year, and he's gone. For me, it's between Chris Braswell and Darius Robinson. If you're looking for more of an athlete, kind of play a little more inside, outside, bigger body, you go Darius Robinson. If you're looking for a more dude who can win now, he can get after the quarterback now, it's Chris Braswell. I didn't really watch Chris Braswell for a while. I just kind of heard his name, saw a couple Senior Bowl stuff, but then I went back and watched Chris Braswell, and I don't know how I didn't watch him sooner because this dude is a baller. Chris Braswell is a guy that I was sleeping on, I'll admit, but now I'm not. He's going to be a good pick for them now. Pick 31 for the Niners. Cornerback's always a position they could use, but I just don't think there's anyone worth it. For me, the best player that's worth it for them is get themselves Tyler Guyton, a guy who doesn't need to play this year. He can kind of sit another year behind Trent Williams, and I don't even know who they're playing at right tackle these days, but he wasn't very good last year. He can kind of sit if you need. He can play if you need. I would rather him sit a year. Trent Williams doesn't have much longer left. In worst case, even Trent Williams stays. He can slide and be right tackle next year. He can slide over play left tackle next year, but more developmental guy that they could really use some O-line help for the Niners. And the last pick of the first round, we have the Kansas City Chiefs, who I think kind of have to go wide receiver. It's looking like Rashee Rice. I don't want to talk about the whole Rashee Rice situation, but like, it is what it is. I don't think it's looking good for Rashee Rice. So they could really use some receiver help. And for me, I think Troy Franklin would be awesome in this offense because like Troy Franklin is one of those dudes where he's just smaller, but like he's fast and he's just one of those really smart receivers. You can see him with Oregon. Like he knows the coverages, knows how to get open. Him and Bo Nix had a great connection. I think Patrick Mahomes and Troy Franklin could have this just connection that I could just see being just beautiful in Kansas City. So we're going to go with Troy Franklin. I'm not as high on Troy Franklin, but like I just see that fit with Kansas City just so seamless and how he could slide in and just be perfect with them. Anyways, that's my first round mock draft. Make sure you guys subscribe, comment, like, check out all my other stuff if you like. I'm gonna be turning out some more 7-round mock drafts for different teams. We got Chiefs and Bills coming out this week. I'm going to be doing some other teams as we go along. Let me know what you thought, and I'll see you for the next one. Thank you for watching.